Hi all, I have a fascinating but quite complex Mikhail Tal game to show you. His opponent here was Robert's Skuja, who has some interesting bio actually. He was actually an agricultural worker and one of the strongest farm workers around the 1950s. He took first board, also on the first board of the Soviet Farm Workers Chess Team Championship in 1955. Quite a few achievements. So Mikhail Tal kicked off with d4, quite a diverse opening repertoire, demonstrated that he can play both e4 and d4. We have a King's Indian defense, fianchetto variation, and here we have rook d1 supporting a knight on d4 if ever e takes d4, but white would also have a pleasant advantage there, a nice grip on d5. c6, b3, so the bishop wants to probe that d6 pawn. e4, a6, bishop a3. Now black plays c5, trying to emphasize and lock down white's kind of structural issue, the d4 square. Because if you look at this position, nothing's going to help d4 if that becomes weak. Structurally, that's a classic weakness here from the black perspective. And is in fact, d takes and b4 encourages, because that bishop's blocked in for that moment, encourages the potential for knight d4 at the right moment with a bit of preparation. Okay, so we have c5 here, things sharpen up. D takes, knight d5, knight takes, e takes, c takes b4. So while the queen's protected by the knight, it's a clever move, but a clever response, queen a4 hitting the rook and collecting that b pawn. Nevertheless, black in this position is doing quite well here after a5. Just to show that black's doing quite well. On queen d2, which wasn't played, knight d4, and black even has a spectacular threat of queen c3 here for knight e2 check. This is quite a pleasant position for black, because remember the 2-1 pawn majority on the queen side is ready to be pushed. b5, b4 with tempo potentially. Black's d4 is good here, but a different move is played, which is actually liked by engines, in fact, as well. So at move 19, fascinating technical move. Sorry, move 20. Okay, what would you play here if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video? It creates fascinating complications. So you have 5 seconds starting from now if you want to pause the video. Okay, d takes e6, queen sack, rook takes d7, 2 pieces for the queen, and yeah, e takes f7 now is coming to win a rook. Where should black move the king? Well, in the game he played king f8. It might be the case that king h8 is slightly more of a concern potentially. There's some very, very complicated variations around here, I've got to say. So like taking, and the rooks can accelerate to the southern flank with rook c1. So we get this kind of position, which is interesting to check out. Hair-raising stuff. So say we get this position. b3. Trying to get access to a1. You might wonder why. This is like black's probably best shots. e4 to open up that diagonal. The check, dragging the bishop back. Now here, instead of queen takes g7, which would lead to knight and bishop against rook, just e takes. But even so, believe it or not, even in this position, we arrive here. This is a long way off. But this position after rook HE7 to avoid disasters with rook E1, from an engine point of view, this is slightly better for white. And I've had to use a crib sheet to show you this variation. This is how complicated this game is. I have to admit, this is like my third attempt to show you this game. A lot of work is going in just to show you some of the implications of this game with this queen sack. It's slightly mind-blowing. But anyway, black, yeah, he didn't, funny enough, he didn't see these resources, yeah, like b3, e4, etc. Funny enough, yeah, he thought king f8 was slightly stronger. Okay. Wow. Okay, so we have f takes. Now, yeah, 3 pieces for Mikhail Tal are hanging. Don't try this at home. Rook ad1 protects the rook and means rook takes g7 weighs against the bishop hanging here. Black moves his bishop and white moves his. So both giving themselves a reprieve on the dark square bishops being attacked. Rook takes a2. It still seems pretty dangerous here. There's a passed b pawn. There's potentially, you know, vulnerable f2 in the variations. But now knight g5. With that knight coming to e4, it's going to help f2. Black does attack f2. It's protected. With that beautiful knight on e4, a lot of white's problems are now over. In fact, after bishop e7, things get pretty forcing and in white's favour now. Can you see what white plays now? Mikhail Tal is in a prime position here. What does he play? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, there's massive coordination. Rook takes e7, bishop g5 check, rook d8 check, getting the king where white wants with a rook on the 7th. So there's a lot of squares cut off from that king at the moment. And now, yeah, Mikhail Tal is not going to go wrong with allowing a mate in 2. No. Nor is he going to play this one, which still is also wrong because black can play check here. Check. Check. Pick up the knight. And then actually escape like James Bond here with king g8. And black's escaping, winning. No. He simply plays in this move a calm move instead to avoid all this counterplay, as one wants to avoid counterplay of the opponent. h4 is played, just giving the king h2 on any check. So that will sort that one out. But the check is played here. And the idea is rook d1 to challenge this rook on the 7th. Now there's a quite killer move which Tal could have played here, but he didn't. He played move which is still good, but there's actually really a quite killer move in this position. If I give you 5 seconds, can you see what the quite killer move is? You want to support knight f6 and bishop h6 without losing a rook. There's an easy way to do this in retrospect. What would you play here? Okay, the easy way to do this is rook e7. So there's 2 threats, bishop h6 for mating on with rook e8, or knight f6 for mating with rook h7. So just to show, for example, this knight f6 is mating on h7 next move. There's no defense of h7 there. So this position actually would kind of be a finisher virtually for black. Let's see, just want to quickly on queen c6 play knight f6. Yeah, that's just finishing. Black would have to play queen takes f6 there. That would be hopeless. So yeah, rook e7 is all over. The point is, though, now here, instead, Tal played knight d6. And there's a couple of ways, actually, that black could kind of avoid being mated in short order. There's two ways. Either king g8 or rook takes d6. On king g8, if white tries to weave the mating net, then we play rook takes d6 here. And yes, the bishops and rooks are really looking to coordinate here. But in this particular position, king f7 is actually possible without bishop d5 being a killer. I just wanted to demonstrate, black could wriggle out a bit there, technically. So yeah, there's that possibility that rook takes d6 is possible. There's also king g8 is possible, because bishop h6, rook takes d6 immediately as well. For king g8 here. Sorry, not king g8. The thing is, king g8 gets mated, because then we have coordination like this. Beautiful coordination, in fact. But I still wanted to mention this position here with the immediate rook takes d6. There's king g7 to avoid that lethal coordination. King g7, and it's a little bit trickier here. If check, we can avoid the dark squares, and it's not entirely easy. So the major point I guess I was wanting to make, Tal's probably still evolving as a player and is not finding yet the total killer moves without counterplay, which would be the ideal. So knight d6 is not totally the ideal move, but nevertheless the opponent falters here. Queen takes f2, which leaves white with a clear-cut way of playing now, which actually gains a load of material in a totally winning position. Finally, this is a clear now combination without issue here. Can you see what white plays in this position? Okay, he starts off with knight f7 check, which means that the rook's now hanging on d1, but he doesn't want to take on d1 here, because then f7 knight can be taken. What he plays here, guess what he plays here? Okay, bishop h6. Yes, this is much more. I think this is crushing, absolutely crushing in the variations. There's only two possibilities: king f6 or king g8. King f6 was tried, which just loses to rook takes d1, because now, if king takes, we've got rook f1, winning the queen. Yeah. So the other way, king g8. I think loses like this actually. Rook takes d1. If queen takes f7, we've got bishop d5. And the same sort of thing, if king takes, we've got rook f1. Yeah, so it's trivially winning now by this stage. Rook takes d1. This is just absolute material up for white. Black plays on for a bit, but it's yeah, it's not good to be so much material down. The pawns are not going anywhere. And that was it. A very, very complicated game, and for some reason I was obsessed with showing you that there might have been a more accurate way of playing the position. I wanted to show you some resources for black. I wanted to demonstrate why there was a kind of underlying need. It wasn't just brilliance for the sake of brilliance to sack the queen, because black by that stage did have quite a good position actually if the queen had humbly retreated. So the engines really actually agree with Tal on the queen sack. Black might have been able to improve, as mentioned, if he was a tactical genius himself, with king h8. But these are unbelievably difficult to find defensive resource ideas. Tal maybe have got overexcited with his position when he played knight d6, when he just needed rook e7. It seems there was very, very little defense after rook e7 with the bishop h6 and knight f6 ideas. A fascinating game, and one of the more painful so far to actually show you, because I wanted to show you some of the key variations. What I'll do, I'll also leave the PGN, annotated PGN that I've got in the description of the video, so you might want to play through yourself and ask some more questions. Let's use the Socratic method, questions and answers, to find some more inner secrets about this game, because there's a wealth of tactical resources behind it. It's just amazing. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.